as the new head of STEM at Sallay, I'm very excited to start down this path with all the new teachers and the administrators. I do know that we're creating a school that's there to benefit the students, the families, but also teachers' professional growth. Like, it's all about the young people and watching them grow. So I want to start with one particular STEM activity that we've done in the past, not at Les Sallay, but I've done as a STEM math science teacher. And it's just building a solar powered car. And if you can imagine 25 sixth graders in a room, they're given the opportunity to build a car with a motor and a solar panel, and they've got to use a special kind of wood that's very soft that they have to cut with an X-Acto knife. And, if you can imagine, again, being in a middle school and providing students with little knives, you might think that's not a very good idea. But at Les Sallay, when you have kids in these small groups, you get them to build cars to work cooperatively, and then they get to test the cars. And to create something from scratch is sort of where I think we are able to produce where other schools can't. And so once you built the car, then it goes into the science of how does solar power work. And so they ask questions about that. And that prompts them and forces them or makes them want to research alternative energies, And so while they're doing that in the sciences, mathematically, they're collecting data as the cars travel 5, 10, 20 meters, they're recording how long it takes. And they're creating a dot plot so that we can do linear regression with middle schoolers in a way that lets them really understand how equations connect to the real world. So that's just a small example. But I do think that working with the other teachers at Les Sallay and Tanya as the head of humanities, we get to take this idea of alternative energy, which is a big part of science and research in the 21st century right now, and we can have kids develop business plans for their own alternative energy companies, and so they can write about it, they can present commercials about it, so they can be creative about their thinking. And so, as I think about the sciences, it gets me very excited because the students are the ones driving the questions. And I'm there to help foster their understanding and create the connections, but I want them to be motivated. And so that's really my primary job. Now in math, you might ask, Sean, how do you get kids excited to learn math every day, especially when they're already at home, like Max said, and the video said, they're in their own bedroom, they're in their comfortable chair. What's going to make them want to jump out of their chair and start to study math? That's a good question. Again, it comes down to the use of technologies. When they're at home, there are some really cool programs out there that we use. GeoGebra is a great modeling example. Even Google SketchUp is a really amazing program that when kids use it, it's like they're building something. And in middle school, it's so important to get kids to build their own ideas and not just hear what I'm telling them to memorize it. We don't want kids just to memorize, so when we talk about math, sorry, that's my phone dinging. When we talk about algorithms in math, that's how most people were taught originally in the 60s, 70s, 80s. But for me, as the head of the STEM program and mathematics in particular, it's our job to get kids to investigate a question, to come up with solutions, and then generalize that solution. And by doing so, they might develop their own algorithms. And if I have a student in one of my classes and they present their idea to the class and we all agree that it works, well, then we might call that, say, Finn's theory or Finn's algorithm. And so we give credit to the student who invented it, and it just creates a sense of excitement because they know that they're not only figuring something out for their own, but they're also helping their peers learn too, because they won't get their questions answered by me all the time. They're going to help each other along the way. And so again, this goes back to what Pauline is going to talk about, but the community building in middle school, I think it's going to be one of our strengths, regardless of the number of kids, when kids work together and play together, it helps them grow. And middle school is definitely a time where kids can become disinterested in school, you know, where science is a list of facts, memorize these facts for the test on Friday. Or math is just, here's how you do this kind of problem. Now, here's how I'm gonna do it for you. Now you do it the same way. You know, and those two sides, science and math, when kids are taught that way, they just disengage. And you know, I see it not in my classroom, of course. I teach in the way that I'm speaking, and I love working with my students. And I know I'm going to love working with the students at Sallay because they are going to be engaged in questioning, and not just any kind of question, but you know, higher level where they're going to be applying the concepts that they figure out to a new problem. Because the world is full of systems. Earth is nothing but a bunch of systems that are intertwined, interconnected. And so the more questions kids ask, the more they'll figure this out for themselves, and the more we get to think about it from their point of view. And so we all get to grow together. And the kids are really going to feel like leaders in their fields. And I'm excited to see how much they, you know, expand and grow from 10 years old to 15 years old. Because we are ultimately trying to get them to be world citizens who can affect change wherever they decide to put their energies, you know. And so I didn't talk directly a lot about math content or science content, but believe me when I say it's all there in a way that makes them uber ready for high school math and very excited to continue their scientific studies in high school. You know, they'll be ready for the highest level inquisitive informational lessons when they get to the high school of their choice or of their dreams, hopefully.